Good morning. I'm Giuseppe Cataldi, Professor of International Law in the University of Napoli Orientale and President of the International Association for the Law of the Sea. Today I will deal with you on the theme of maritime delimitation in the Mediterranean Sea, an issue of great interest, in particular in present times, for a lot of problems I will try to explain to you. Of course, the text of reference will be the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, which is in force among nearly 200 states, and as you know, for the most part of its provisions, it is considered reproductive of customary international law. But let's share with you some slides. Okay. First of all, let me recall with you which are the maritime zones which normally we divide the sea from the point of view of jurisdiction and sovereignty of state. Concerning the sovereignty, starting from the baseline, we have the territorial sea up to 12 nautical miles, and then contiguous zone, exclusive economic zone, which are jurisdictional zones that is not under sovereignty of the coastal state, but under functional powers of the coastal state. We have under the sea water the continental shelf, which is a geological, it's a geological space, but also under the exploitation of the coastal state, the monopoly of the exploitation of the coastal. And then we have the high seas, the international sea, which is described by the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea as the space where there are no more areas subjected to jurisdictional or sovereignty power of a state. This is the same concept seen in from another point of view. Normally, for what concerns the territorial sea, we have some issue concerning the baseline. The baseline is the normally the shore, but the coastal state can derogate from this rule, connecting with an imaginary line all the little islands, little rocks near the coast, or even all the points where the coast is indented, where there are some external points to connect. You see, territorial sea up to 12 miles, but it is not always up to 12 miles, because sometimes there is a sort of self-restraint by same states. The case is this one in particular, the Aegean case, the Greek case, because Greece has extended in the Aegean territorial sea up to 6 nautical miles and not more, in order not to go too close to Turkish shores. You know, it is quite an issue, this problem among Turkey and Greece in the Mediterranean Sea, when in the Aegean Sea, when Greece ratified the United Nations Convention, Turkey declared, the Turkish parliament declared that it was perceived as a sort of act of aggression, act of war. Turkey is not a contracting party of the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, and we will understand why. This is another case concerning Gibraltar, the Rock of Gibraltar, which is under United Kingdom sovereignty due to the Utrecht Treaty. So we are in the 18th century. It is contested, of course, by Spain, this continuum, this presence still there nowadays, but there is a problem in the problem because the United Kingdom has declared a territorial sea up to 3 nautical miles, and according to the Utrecht Treaty, there is no right to a territorial sea. The problem is that, as United Kingdom answers, that at that moment there was no territorial sea in the international law as a concept. Nowadays, a coastal state has got a territorial sea automatically due to the fact that it has a shore. So there is a problem which is inside a more important problem concerning sovereignty on the law. The delimitation of territorial sea normally, the delimitation among 2 or more states, normally does not give many problems. So when 2 states cannot go up to 12 nautical miles because they are too close one to the other, normally there is no particular issue. The United Nations Convention says that in this case, the equidistance line is the line which is the borderline among the two states, among the 2 territorial seas, of course, unless states decide in another way, because sovereignty gives them the possibility, the power to negotiate and decide a different boundary. But in absence of any particular decision on the point, the equidistance line is the line which divides the 2 territories. More complicated is the issue of the delimitation of marine spaces when we deal with exclusive economic zones and continental shelves. You know, the line of equidistance, from the technical point of view, is reached in this way, making in connection the external points of the 2 coasts and then drawing a perpendicular line. But the line of equidistance is not necessarily the final line, final boundary line among the 2 states. In this case, in the case of opposite shores, or even here when we have 2 adjacent states which try to negotiate a boundary. Why? Because there is a different advantage that a coast may gain from the equidistance line if you have a concave coast or if you have a convex coast. And this was very clear in the 1969 case decided by International Court of Justice, when there was a necessity to draw the boundary line among 3 states: Denmark, the Netherlands, and Germany. Denmark and the Netherlands tried to convince the International Court of Justice that Germany was obliged to accept the equidistance line because it was a customary rule. The equidistance line was provided by the Geneva Convention 1958 on the continental shelf, but Germany was not a party to this convention. And so the International Court of Justice decided that it was not the equidistance line, the fair line, A, B, E, D, C, but this other one, A, B, F, D, C, Y, because it was the equitable result, implementing another concept, one of proportionality among the states. This idea of the International Court of Justice, that was confirmed also by other decisions, has now been transferred in the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, which in Article 74 and Article 83, with the identical rules, say that the delimitation in these cases must be gained through an agreement with the aim of reaching an equitable result. That is, first drawing the the line of equidistance, and then adjusting this line of equidistance when it was necessary in order to reach an equitable result. So in case there is, for example, a difference of development of the coast. One side, it is a little development of the coast. On the other side, there is a huge development. When there are little islands in the middle, so there are geographical circumstances. There are other kind of political circumstances, other kind of circumstances that normally are taken care of course, with different effects on the delimitation line. The exclusive economic zone, of course, is a concept which was born in order to give a solution to oceanic problems. It was an oceanic concept because it developed mainly in the oceans. It is, as it can be very easily understood, more difficult to transport this concept in other contexts, in particular in the Mediterranean. So now we come to the Mediterranean Sea. The sea, which is, of course, a limited sea with one only space open to the ocean, which is the Gulf of the Strait of Gibraltar, and on the other side we have the Suez Channel, but it is artificial, as we know. And it is very important to try to manage it in a fair way because it is the meeting point of the north and the south of the world. It is maybe the main meeting point. There are, of course, also environmental issues because it is a limited space. There is the need of exploiting not only biological resources, but also minerals and so on. And there is, at the basis, in principle, a difficulty also in trying to understand how many are the states on the Mediterranean shore. Why? Because it depends on the political idea you have, because we can consider the United Kingdom as a Mediterranean Sea because of Gibraltar. We have the situation of Cyprus when we have a state which is not recognized by the international community, except that for Turkey, which is the northern part of Cyprus. We have the eternal issue of Palestine and its relationship with Israel. So there are many problems. But anyway, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea has two provisions in Part 9, especially concerning the management of enclosed or semi-enclosed seas. What is asked for is a sort of principle of cooperation more, how can I say, more necessary than in other space, because cooperation is always paramount, is always important, but in particular in these cases where we have a limited space with more states with interest and costs on it. The problem is that in Article 123, you see that it is a states bordering inclusive semi-inclusive should cooperate. So it is up to states to decide if they will implement or not this recommendation of cooperation. Anyway, the Mediterranean Sea is not the only semi-enclosed sea. We have also, for example, the Black Sea that sometimes is seen as a sort of spin-off of the Mediterranean Sea. We have the Caspian Sea. We have, due to climate change, also now the possibility to consider the Arctic Ocean as a semi-enclosed sea because it is free from ice much more time than once. For many months in the year, it is it is open to navigation and also to the exploitation. And it is interesting that before, of course, war in Ukraine, there was an agreement among Norway and Russia in order to freeze their respective pretension and decide to develop a joint system of exploitation of resources in the area under dispute. So not to delimit for the moment, at least, but to exploit together in the common interest, which is an interesting solution, which maybe in some cases could be also exported in the Mediterranean Sea. In the Mediterranean Sea, at the beginning, there were no jurisdictional zones because of the problems in trying to delimit them, because the area is narrow, because of the characteristics also of the coasts, political problem, and so on. At a certain point, there was this diffusion of sui generis zones, that is, jurisdictional zones which are not full exclusive economic zone, but only implement some of the powers of the competences that it is given to states according to the exclusive economic zones. And so we have, for example, at the beginning, a fishery zone declared by Spain. It was transformed into exclusive economic zone recently. This is a common also wave, because now all these sui generis zones are in the are transforming themselves in full exclusive economic zone. And so Spain zone, Maltese fishing zone, Libyan exclusive fishing zone, Algerian fishing zone, Tunisian fishing zone, France that established an ecological zone, then transformed in exclusive zone, Slovenia, Croatia, Italy, which was the last one. And so we have this situation in the Mediterranean Sea, which is a very complicated one, with also areas of overlapping of pretensions among the states, because it has not been delimited through full agreements among states. So we have a series of unilateral declarations on the point. For example, here we have in blue, we have these areas of overlapping, which are consequent to the Algerian declaration 2018 of exclusive economic zones, which goes very close to the coasts of Italy and Spain in particular. Here is the overlapping among the exclusive economic zone of France and the one from Spain. So there are problems to solve. According to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, states can also negotiate a provisional arrangement that can be after transformed in a definite arrangement. This is the case of the line among Tunisia and Algeria, which was after transformed in a final agreement. But it is not easy to conclude an agreement of this kind, because there are the same difficulties in concluding a definite agreement. Here you can see how far goes the external line of the pretension of Algeria, an external point of external line of exclusive economic zone. It has been contested by Spain and Italy. Now there is a bilateral commission with Italy in order to try to solve this problem. Italy, yes, I will deal for a moment with the Italian problems, not because it is my country, but because it is in the center of the Mediterranean Sea, and it has got most of the it has concluded the most part of the international agreements on these issues in force. In 2006, an ecological zone was declared, a law on Italian ecological zone in order to protect the environment, but it was implemented only in 2011, but with a limited extension in the Mediterranean part of the Italian coasts. This is more or less the line. And there was the need at a certain point to delimit it with France. An agreement was made, but unfortunately this agreement is not in force because of the because it has not been ratified by Italy because the Italian Association of Fishermen contested this line, this agreement, because the part in red, according to this position, were mistakenly given to under French jurisdictional powers, and so this agreement is not in force. We will see if a new agreement will be done. In 2021, Italy was the last one for the moment to declare an exclusive economic zone, which has not been implemented so far. There was a sort of attempt to imagine which are the boundaries of this zone, which have been drawn by, of course, unofficially, only by a scientific journal, trying to follow the lines of the continental shelf agreements that Italy has got with its neighbors. And so this one, which is in force with Croatia, the old agreement on the continental shelf with Yugoslavia, this one with Spain, this one with Greece, and on this we must say that now there is, and we will see in a moment, an agreement of confirmation also for what concerns other issues. So it is a full boundary line, a unique line for all the interests among the two states, Italy and Greece. So the line of the continental shelf agreement was extended to all purpose. So it is an all-purpose line. Here we have some problems, and so there is a difficulty in imagining a line. Why? Because with Malta we do not have an agreement, but only a memorandum of understanding, so a sort of non-binding agreement between the two states. And with Tunisia we have a problem because we have in force a continental shelf agreement, which must be, of course, respected. But Italy has no intention of extending it to other interests, because it was a very, how can I say, advantageous agreement for Tunisia, but not for Italy at that moment, because we gave a limited effects to the Italian little archipelagos here. We delimited the area pretending that these islands were not there, and then we gave a little space, a little room, little area of exclusive economic zone to this little island. So Tunisia has declared an exclusive economic zone, extending this line also to other interests, but it is not the official position of Italy. So this is has not been negotiated with Italy, so it is only an unilateral pretension. So we will see. This is the system of continental shelf agreement of Italy with its neighbors. This is the line which was contested when it was created as a external line of the Croatian fishery and ecological zone, but now it has been accepted, and it has been also extended with an agreement among Italy and Croatia to the as a all-purposes line. This is another problem. This is the dispute among Slovenia and Croatia over the Piran Bay, which finally has been solved by an arbitral tribunal, giving to Slovenia the most part of the bay as a historic, recognizing it as an historical Slovenian bay, also in the area. And this is the problem with the Tunisia I mentioned before. The idea is to try to reduce the equidistance line among the little islands, Italian islands with Tunisia, because of course the continental territory of Tunisia is far more extended than the little islands, so we cannot have an equidistance line, but an equidistance line reduced 50%, 75%, it must be negotiated in order to reach the famous equitable result. This is a huge problem we have in this area, because in this area we have the pretensions of Italy, of Malta, of Tunisia, of Libya, so it is very difficult to try to manage this area. It's very delicate, and for the moment there are no, how can I say, no specific decisions on the point. There is an old sentence, old decision of the International Court of Justice among Malta and Libya, but it is not sufficient now to manage all the pretensions that we have in this area. And we will see what will happen in the future. But the main issues, the most difficult political situations concerning delimitation of spaces, now we find in the eastern part of the Mediterranean Sea. Not for what concerns Italy and Greece, because as I have already told you, the equidistance line among the two states, which was reached for the delimitation of the continental shelf, now it has been in 2020 consolidated as an all-purposes line among the two states. And after this line, which was the first act of a process that we will end with the extension of the exclusive economic zone of the two states, Italy has extended its own, has declared its own exclusive economic zone, as I told you. Now it is up to Greece to do it. We will see what it will happen, because Greece has a huge problem with Turkey, as I mentioned before. We see that we can consider that the agreement with Italy was a sort also of how can I say, of attempt of Greece to show that it is not alone. There is a sort of aid by the European Union and Italy. In particular, this agreement of 2020, Italian fishermen had a series of privileges, a series of special rights of fishing in the Greek part of the zone of the Greek future exclusive economic zone. So it is interesting, because it was given by Greece probably in order to show this to Turkey. And the situation is complicated by the fact that Turkey, not being a party to the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, contests also the idea, the rule in Article 121, concerning the regime of islands. So the fact that according to this provision, islands can also produce exclusive economic zones and continental shelf. According to Turkey, this is not a customary rule. So it is not opposable to it. It is only a provision which concerns states which are parts of the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. Turkey has also made a sort of, we can say, provocation act. It has concluded an agreement with Libya, let's say with one of the two entities that try to impose itself on Libya, on the government of Libya. And as we see here, this agreement has been made pretending that the island of Crete, big island, it does not exist. This is something, of course, which Greece cannot accept, and it is, of course, contrary to United Nations Convention of the Law, but Turkey is not part of it. According to, if we try to imagine how could be the exclusive economic zone of Turkey and of Greece and of Cyprus, according to UNCLOS, this is the situation. So it is a situation in which Turkey suffers, in which Turkey, we can understand that Turkey is not happy to be how can I say, limited in the extension of its own exclusive economic zone. But if we implement the criteria of the convention, this is the situation, because here we have all islands of Greek sovereignty. And in particular, we have here the Isle of Castellorizzo, which, as you see, it is here, cut the possibility of Turkey to here at least have a wider space of exclusive economic zone. And so we have a series of overlapping claims among the states of the area, which is an area very interesting, because we have a series of interesting area from the point of view of mineral resources. It is complicated also, the area, by the fact that there is a dispute area among Lebanon and Israel. This one always in this interesting area of possibility of exploitation. And here, concerning the agreement among Cyprus and Egypt, because this line is contested by both Israel and Lebanon. So Israel and Lebanon contest this division among Cyprus and Egypt of exclusive economic zone, and also disagree among them on this area close to their coast. So we live really a difficult situation in this area, which, as we know, is also a very delicate area for other problems. May I conclude just giving an idea of what happens out of the Mediterranean, but always in semi-closed sea. We are in the South China Sea, where we have this attempt of China of taking everything, of pretending with this line, of having the sovereignty over most of the space. But there are overlapping claims, because we have Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, which have also pretensions on the sea. and also on the little archipelagos we have here, in particular Paracels and Spratleys Islands. An interesting case was in this case was attempted by Philippines against China, an arbitration case in which Philippines with a very smart idea did not ask to the arbitral tribunal whose is the sovereignty over the islands, but if these islands can enter into the idea of Article 121. So if they can produce exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. And so if there are really islands according to 121, and being an island according to 121 means having an economic life independent, so fresh water, so the possibility of hosting human life, and to be also emerged at high tide, otherwise they are identified as rocks. And the answer of the tribunal was that this activity of China, of trying to transform rocks in islands, sucking sediment from the seabed, you see it transforming in this manner the little rocks in island, is of course illegitimate from the point of view of international law. So there is a clear violation of UNCLOS by China, a clear violation of the principle of good faith. But China did not accept to be present of course in the case, and also did not accept the final award. So you see, this is something which is geographically out of the Mediterranean Sea, but it is very important in order to also take care of all these issues which are now in the Mediterranean Sea, and also maybe the situation will worsen if this war among Russia and Ukraine will not end soon, as we all hope, because other questions concerning military maneuvers, concerning the passage into the Turkish Straits and so on will develop. So really, as always, the hope is that the cooperation will be followed as a mean of a solution, trying also to explore the possibility of common exploitations of these goods, of these areas of water, seabed and subsoil. But for the moment, of course, the situation is still one where sovereignty of states is something which is paramount. Each state wants to prove to itself and to the international community how strong is its own presence and how strong are its own pretensions. But in a limited space as the Mediterranean Sea, this is very difficult to perform. So here, once again, there is a need of more cooperation than elsewhere. Thank you very much for your attention.